On the eve of the PC launch of Dark Souls 2, one looks back on the 1500 hours he played of Dark Souls and asks, what was it about this experience that was so compelling, and what can be improved upon in the sequel? How will the sequel handle this legacy? Spoiler, not well. I'll start with the weak points of Dark Souls, as they are few. Many people would say the PC port was bad, but they're wrong. It's just a bare bones port. The game functioned perfectly for me and my friends day one, with no mods installed for months. That being said, the port could have been better, but frankly, considering it was their first ever PC release, and that they were in the middle of developing Dark Souls 2, and told to do this port in a very short time span, that can be forgiven, because for a lot of us who know how to configure their computers, Dark Souls ran better on PC than it ever did on console. The real one true flaw of Dark Souls was the netcode. It was difficult to connect with your friends, and even more difficult to deal with the latency you would get when doing multiplayer. The latency was terrible in PvP and massively crippled parrying to the point where you were having to guess when to parry. Other AoE spells and specific triggers were also affected, making PvP almost laughable at times. Twinkers were also a problem, people who would run through the entire game, get endgame gear, and come back to low-level areas and kill new players who had no hope of retaliating against them. With upgraded armor, a low-level player would never be able to do enough damage to kill an invader unless they were extremely skilled, or lucky. This is pretty shameful for a game where you are always given a reasonable avenue of victory. And the point of the game, unlike what some idiots think, to win in a way that's meaningful to you. Hackers were also a bit of a problem, exacerbated by Games to Win His Life, as they did not give a damn. So to sum it up, the cons are a wildly inconsistent multiplayer experience, mostly due to netcode issues, but partly due to lame people. So on to the pros. Dark Souls and its predecessor Demon Souls have long been heralded for their weighty, tight combat controls, and rightly so. The combat of these games is impeccable. There's a depth here that you will find nowhere else. Almost any new weapon you pick up is a new combat experience. You can make so many different builds and loadouts that one would never be able to exhaust all the options. Some of the animations are lacking grace, but that's probably intentional, as it fits in the game. Your character doesn't have the finesse of a master, but of someone desperately struggling to survive a terrifying world. Everything in Dark Souls fits the game, and is part of the lore. Even dying 1,000 times, even quitting the game out of despair and frustration. The difficulty of Dark Souls was imperative to one's experience being fulfilling. Dark Souls is a game where the main antagonist is yourself. You wrestle with your own shortcomings and failures, and when you triumph, it is you who you defeat. The struggle of Dark Souls sets you up for a payoff far greater than anything you will ever get in any other game. The harder the experience, the greater the affection you have for the game. One of Dark Souls' best strengths is its storytelling. The storytelling in Dark Souls is so perfect, some people don't realize they're being told a story at all. Instead of there being lengthy, forced exposition and cutscenes, everything is done via item descriptions, dialogue with sketchy NPCs, placement of enemies and items, as well as the world itself. There is a rich story to Dark Souls, but only for those who care to seek it out. This is perhaps the best kind of storytelling because you are never accosted by cutscenes, you simply follow breadcrumbs the whole way through. You are dropped into this world with no direction, lost and unsure of your purpose. This is intentional and it's effective. The story of Dark Souls could be described as a retelling of the transition from the Age of Gods, ancient Greece and ancient Rome, to the Middle Ages, where the gods no longer rule over man, but rather justify him. To put it another way, the corpse of God becomes a throne for man. The world of Dark Souls is extremely expressive, and it's one of the most amazing world environments for a game that's ever been made. A player moves up and down, in and out in 3 dimensions, seamlessly transitioning from a variety of radically different environments that all reference one another, that you can often see from other areas, and you can travel between them with no load screens. This is a feat. I truly love this game. Its totally cohesive, thoughtful design is unmatchable. On that note, Dark Souls 2. My expectations are, in a word, low. Dark Souls 2 has a different director. From the get-go, I knew this would be a problem. Few people seem to really understand the game, and based on interviews and statements released, a picture began to form Accessible, they said. Casual and dumbed down, they meant. Of my friends who have already played it on console, they say, it's very easy until New Game Plus. That to me is a problem. They clearly wanted to coddle players a bit more. I know there's an explicit tutorial section, and more cutscenes in this one. This robs the player of a better experience. These compromises of quality do not give me the confidence that other aspects of the game won't be poisoned by mediocre vision and execution. I will be a harsh judge of Dark Souls 2, because it so easily could have been better than the first game, instead of trading old strengths for new weaknesses. We will see though how things work out. I'm going to post videos of my initial experience with the game and voice my displeasure. Hopefully a future title will express more fidelity to the original. Thanks for watching. Cheers.